everybody, and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. Tommy giving it the largest of waves because, of course, our full race review podcasts are fully on YouTube, as well as on your audio. If you didn't know, vice versa, you can check the other one out. That's absolutely fine. Tom Bellingham, we have completed the Belgian Grand Prix. We have completed the first half of the season. Into the summer break we go. How are you feeling, Max Verstappen fan?
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous, actually. It's a very close title battle, and look, could be close. No.
You make me sick.
Yeah, we've said he can't win every race, but my God, he's certainly going about it like he can. Full clean sweep for Red Bull after the first, we've won all the sprints as well, so big old dominance.
Big old fat dominance, to be fair. Yeah. Before we dive into the dominance and every other bit of stuff that we need to go speak about, need to share a 5-star review. This one comes in from David J51 from Belgium. If you want your 5-star review to be read out, leave us a 5-star review, tell us why, and we read them all. We read absolutely every single one of them, so thank you so much to all that have, because it helps us a lot. Thank you, Matt and Tommy, for the best podcast on Formula One. When people ask me if it's a drive to survive, the reason... What? When people ask me if it's a drive to survive, the reason I'm following...
If drive to survive is the reason.
If drive to survive is the reason I'm following F1, English. I answer, it's P1. I was the guy shouting out in the crowd when you asked on the main stage if there was someone supporting Alpine. Don't judge me, please. I have my reasons. I am French. It was my first Grand Prix and my heart was broken to see none of the cars finishing the race, and McLaren overtook us the same day. If Formula is pain, you are the painkiller. Thanks for the smile on my face every week. Oh, lovely. Thank you so much, David. Sorry that... Oh, hello, Flexi boy. Come on. You're like Martin Brundle on the fan walk that we had before the race. A little petit peu français. Je veux bien. Oui, je m'appelle Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, that was
stuff.
Fantastic. Great. What a great bit of content, hey? Let's now dive into my most memorable moment to begin with. And let's be honest, it was a solid 6 out of 10 at best. There weren't many memorable moments, but mine, of course, I'm wearing a Ferrari shirt, so it has to be Piastri and Sainz, the incident at the beginning. Yeah, odd one, really, because at first glance, I was like, what is Piastri doing? Why is he putting his nose in there? But on second glance, when you check the onboards in particular of Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz just changes his direction rather aggressively, if we're being honest here. He was kind of more to the outside, then just sort of darts towards the middle/inside of the track, locks up slightly, and Oscar has nowhere to go. It's unfortunate. The stewards deemed it as no further action, turn 1, lap 1, nothing doing sort of thing, and I can understand to some degree it is quite a congested part of the track. It's not a long run down towards turn 1, a lot of cars there. But I would also say that it was definitely Carlos's fault. Did it deserve a penalty? Marginal.
Yeah, it's a classic. I've seen a lot of people going, how was Carlos's not a penalty when Hamilton's was? Still adamant Hamilton's yesterday's shouldn't have, racing incident, shouldn't have been a penalty. They give more lenience certainly on lap 1, but I do believe that Carlos was at fault. You watched Piastri and you thought, why is he diving up the inside like that? And Carlos actually is still blaming Piastri quite heavily, saying that it showed his lack of experience and all that kind of stuff. But pretty savage because...
Wait,
Sainz
Carlos is blaming Oscar?
Yeah, big time. And Carlos is the one that locked up and changed direction so aggressively. It reminds me a little bit of, not the particular Spa moment, but Romain Grosjean used to do it quite a lot, where you can't really just dart your car around and change position, because Oscar Piastri was alongside Sainz and he wouldn't have expected Sainz to just take the corner like he wasn't there. And that's exactly what Piastri said, wasn't it? That, he just turned in like I didn't exist. And Sainz did just drive into that corner thinking, I've locked up. Now I'm going to dive down the inside of...
he dived down the inside, which caused the lock-up, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was the change of direction that caused the lock-up.
He kind of, went
It wasn't
went
out of
for
control.
It.
It was just, he just changed direction quite aggressively, which I would argue is probably
it's going to catch out a lot of people, right?
Not wise.
Sainz risked a lot and got caught out because he, as seems to be the in damage at the moment, the hip new damage is having a hole in your side pod after a little bit of contact.
Yeah, it certainly is.
I wonder if that's something to do with the not new because they're a couple of years old now, but this new front wing and how they've got those massive big end plates now, and maybe I don't know, we seem to have seen a lot of like puncturing side pods. Like I don't remember that happening a lot in the older cards, maybe because there was so much aero on. It was the aero that fell off rather than the side pods, but
that's true, actually, yeah. I did enjoy the fact that we were about to go down the route of aerodynamics with Tom Bellingham, and you very quickly were like, I don't really know what I'm saying here, because neither of us understand the physics of why, but it is a running trend for sure, that puncture in the side, they must be incredibly fragile for one way or another, one reason or another. And so question from Liam_F1, was the Oscar Carlos incident really a racing incident? I'm going to back a racing incident just. Lap 1, turn 1. Carlos should have done better, in my opinion. He's saying it's Oscar's lack of experience. I would say with Carlos's experience, he shouldn't be darting or changing direction as much as he did. And I feel like it was just a lack of awareness from him as opposed to Oscar really doing anything wrong. Because at the point, just before he changes direction, there is a large gap with Oscar Piastri's name on it. He's engraved that piece of tarmac right in front of him with the Piastri surname. And then Carlos was like, absolutely not. I'm coming over, mate. I'm coming on the camera, mate.
I think Carlos is lucky to escape a penalty. I think he's been saved by the fact that one, it's the first lap, and two, he's the one that's got the damage himself. But that doesn't make Piastri any better. And like we said yesterday, they're not meant to take consequence into it, but they definitely do.
They certainly do. And for those that have never heard of the Charles Leclerc, I'm coming on your camera, mate, look it up. It's a clip from when it was COVID, because otherwise, out of context, that sounds really, really strange. Next question, at Mikel_Red. Why did Ferrari take so long to retire Carlos? It was obvious he was losing power. Not just power, I think just generally, his car was an absolute dog, just like we saw with Checo. Like the handling just goes completely off. I think Checo uses the term load when he's with the damage he had yesterday, loses load. I don't really know why either, because in a day and age of Formula One where every mile, every lap turned is precious in terms of the parts they have available, I don't particularly see why they carried on with him, because he was battling Logan Sargent for the final position on the track at one point, and Ferrari should have just pulled the plug then. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to Logie, but there was never any points on the cards. I did say in funniest tweets that perhaps they were hoping for some rain to come, which would equalise the performance somewhat. Let's think of Sebastian Vettel when he got yeeted at Brazil, and when that was wet. Do you remember he was as quick as, if not quicker, than the cars around him because of those slower, wetter conditions? That didn't really happen, at least didn't happen by the time he retired. So, yeah, it was a bit strange. I mean, it's not the end of the world either way, but they just decided to hope it came to him for a little while. Yeah,
it's a very weird choice, in my opinion. I don't know what they're doing. As soon as you're kind of dropping back and battling the back markers, you're never getting points, or it just seems entirely pointless. So, yeah, very, very strange.
Good one.
Really pointless.
That's a good one.
In a season and the way Formula One is now, where parts matter, we've seen Ferrari struggle with them anyway. Part usage and
Charles had a penalty going into the second race of the season.
So every bit matters. So why are you putting extra mileage on the car is absolutely, it's just a waste of time, in my opinion. Very, very odd call from them to do that. Yeah, well, it wasn't the end of the world. It is what it is. They decided it. Well done. We move on. Let's go to your most memorable moment now, Tom Bellingham. My most memorable moment was Verstappen's kind of sassy radio, I guess, because it's the only entertainment we see from Verstappen these days because he's just so far clear. But, speaking about his drive, starting sixth, so easily winning, finishing 22 seconds clear of your teammate when you've started sixth and your teammate started on the front row, he is just playing on easy mode Formula One. He's so far clear, and to the point where he's acting in the races like they're a free practice session now. It's like there's no pressure. He's thriving on the fact that the car is dominant now. People saying he's bored and stuff, and I think he is bored and he would like to race people.
No, but I saw a quote come out the other day where he was saying he actually enjoys being on his own.
I think he likes to troll a bit as well, and he knows that there's going to be people, and rightly so, like
been sarcastic.
They're disappointed that he's winning every race, and I've said it before that even me now as a Verstappen fan, it is a bit like, I don't know, like it's obviously enjoyable, and I'm watching him win races and make his way up the ranks, but I guess the lack of jeopardy is not like a crazy season like we had in it before or whatever. So he's just cruising. He's mentioning about the team having a pit stop practice and stuff like that, and he is just unbelievable. I mean, his form is absolutely insane right now. I wrote a stat down. I've left it on my laptop. I'll go get it while you carry on chatting.
Okay, cool. I'll just speak to myself then. No problem. So, yes, it was the biggest part of the entertainment for sure. The sassy messages that were exchanged between GP, his engineer, and Max Verstappen. Yeah, I do find it funny how, Red Bull obviously try and manage everything. They make sure they don't take any risks whatsoever. They see that he's pushed too hard on the outlap and they start getting a little bit concerned, like, oh, you're taking a bit too much tyre life out, yada, yada, yada. I did find the messages like unnecessarily sassy from GP in some ways. I didn't know if maybe, he's seen them blow up quite a lot during the feed previously, and everyone's like, oh my God, blah, 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 these messages, that perhaps he's almost like acting up to them slightly. I don't know. I was trying to because it didn't feel like he deserved the sass that, because he started sixth on the grid. He's winning by 15 seconds. And it might just be the relationship they have. It might just be that is constantly what they're like when they're out the car, loads of banter, loads of this, that, and the other. But we've not seen that as much broadcast to, everybody in the world. So perhaps it's a slight shock from my side to see the sass when it seemed slightly unwarranted. But perhaps that's just how they are.
I wonder if it's them sort of not keeping Max awake, but alert a little bit. I think Mercedes admitted it's something they did with Hamilton when Hamilton was dominating, that they kind of always trying to keep him alert with things, even if there's not a problem. They'll sort of, keep him alert with saying things, and like the whole tyres are dead thing. It was a thing to actually keep him alert and
well, that was usually him saying it though, right?
Yeah, but they did that sort of thing, and I think it happened with Vettel as well at Red Bull. And I do wonder maybe it's their way of just kind of keeping
annoying him slightly.
Yeah, just keeping him alert and making sure he's not making mistakes. I mean, he had a huge moment where he lost the car at one point. What might have been. But apart from that, it was smooth sailing. Yeah, this is the stat that I wrote down, which is, I think this just shows...
We've been waiting for a long time.
It's not worth it.
Okay.
No, but it just I wanted to sort of, because it feels like Max never has a day off. This is what we say, isn't it? That he doesn't, even when he's starting lower down the order or anything. And I took the last 60 races where Max has finished without any kind of damage or car problems. And he's finished fourth or lower 3 times, third twice, second 14 times, and first 41 times in the last 60 races. I mean, he just doesn't have a day off. And I think that is what's making it so difficult for everyone else, that even when last year he started 14th, still won. He doesn't maybe, dare I say, when Hamilton was dominating, we saw maybe sometimes he'd win the title and cool off a little bit or be a bit slow to start the season. I don't feel like Max has that, and that's probably why it feels even more dominant this year.
Well, great. This podcast is there to keep the hopes up, keep so maybe Max will make a mistake. What you're telling us here, Tommy, is that it doesn't happen and he is a robot.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Great. Next question comes in from Monkeyman16. Is there anyone on the grid that could challenge Max for the title if they were in the Red Bull? I will wholeheartedly back this to the hilt. No one would beat Max Verstappen in that Red Bull team if they joined next year. No one. Not Alonso, not Hamilton, not Russell, not Leclerc. No one. It is his team. It's built around him. They know exactly what he wants. He knows exactly what they need as a team in terms of feedback for the car. No one would do better than Max.
No, agreed. Like, it is just said it on a few podcasts ago that when Max was in what you'd say was the second best car with Red Bull, and he was finishing third, sometimes splitting the Mercedes. He got, I've seen a lot of people say this, during that Mercedes dominant era, he still got 10 wins. And it just showed that during that era, a lot of people were saying, this isn't a surprise. Maybe it's a surprise he's dominating that much, but, it's not like no one expected Max to do this. You can look back at quotes from like Niki Lauda and stuff when he was in the Toro Rosso saying that he's the next generation talent and all this kind of stuff. He's been waiting for that car that if he was in a dominant car, how good could he be? And the answer is this good.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could think that Saudi this year, he had the problem. Perez drove a great race because Max got through the pack and couldn't catch him. But if Max had maybe started in a more favourable qualifying position, and then also the other race he didn't win was Baku, where he got screwed by the safety car, it's not out of the question that Max could have won every single race this year, and it's insane. And just when is it going to end? Because he's just absolutely crushing everyone.
He certainly is, isn't he? He absolutely is. But look, I think we definitely need some time. We sometimes get a little bit frustrated with the lack of competition and so on and so forth. But we also, on the flip side of that, have to commend. We are watching history. We are witnessing greatness right before our eyes. Verstappen, it's all well and good having a dominant car, but to perform at the level without any mistakes, no mistakes, really.
You have to deliver.
Exactly.
Look how many, I mentioned that stat of, what was it? He's only ever finished outside the podium or outside the top two about 6 times in the last 3 years. Think how many times his teammate has finished lower than 5th sometimes, or, it's easy to go, the car is miles ahead, and it is very clear, but, he's finishing races 20, 30, 40 seconds clear of his teammate. Consistently. It's insane. It's just the perfect driver and machine. They've built that car around him, and they've just got it in the sweet spot. And to answer the original question, I don't think anyone could beat him.
I think they could get closer.
Yeah, it'd be closer than Perez.
Races.
Yeah,
I think they could win races against him. I don't think over a season they would beat Max for a title. No chance. Next question. Mig. I'm going to go with, should the FIA step in to make the cars a bit more even? These dominances, Schumacher, Hamilton, Verstappen, are killing the sport. Look, if the FIA turns up in the summer break and goes, right, from Zandvoort, success ballast, I think you lose all integrity of what Formula One is all about. It is sad that we go through these periods of dominance, and we say so many times, we go back to 2021, we say that year was a blessing and a curse because it changed a lot of our outlooks and expectations for seasons moving forward. When the reality is, maybe not as dominant as this. We don't usually see this. Of course, Vettel's 9-race win streak is at threat, and that is the largest we've ever seen. Verstappen is on his way to do that and may well smash it into 15, 18, whatever. But I think the moment we step in, immediately, we do lose that integrity. But on the flip side of that, I totally get this, because Formula One is at the peak of the mountain, and there's only one way down if we have periods of dominance like this. Whether we have to have more frequent rule changes, or I don't know what the exact answer is, if I did, I'd be working at the FIA and Formula One would be fixed. But that you can't just go ahead and change something. You can't rip out part of their car and say, oh, there we go. Now you're half a second slower. As much as in an alternate reality, I'm sure we'd love to see that. But then we're just going towards equal cars and all that debate as well.
Yeah, there's only so much they can do. I'm sure it wouldn't surprise me if next year they start trying to do certain things. Obviously, you know, we had a period of 7 years of Mercedes dominance, and then the year that Red Bull were doing well, they changed the kind of, the rake, wasn't it? And that helped Red Bull kind of catch up, and they were a bit more on a level playing field. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe next year or the year after, if Red Bull are still on this crazy winning streak, they do something like that to make it close. But the problem is, look what happened when they raised the height of the cars, because the Mercedes was porpoising, and they kind of stepped in and went, okay, we will change it. And a lot of people, including I think Red Bull, were saying, you know, it's ridiculous, you shouldn't change it. And if anything, they've got even more dominant because of it. Like, the crazy thing is that they could do something like this. They could step in and change something. But the sad reality for everyone that wants it to be closer is that Red Bull has the best DRS. It's the best in a straight line. It's the best around the corners. It's the best at running low. It's the best in the wet. What you know, they could change something and Red Bull could be 30 seconds clear as opposed to 20 seconds clear. That car, what's so good about it is it can run in clear air. It can do everything. Like, it's good in so many different windows. Look what happened with McLaren and Ferrari when they raised the height. Like, they just fell off. But Red Bull got better, and I think you could run the risk of trying to close things up, and all that it does is actually nerf a load of other teams, and Red Bull could potentially get even better. So it's a risk if they wanted to do something like that as well.
And F1, I think Toto Wolff has said this before, is a meritocracy. You know, it rewards teams doing the best job. And, you know, we can have a go at Red Bull. Wow, you're dominant. No, we should be speaking and talking about the teams that are flopping, the ones that aren't getting it right. The Mercedes that dominated for so many years, Ferrari that haven't won since 1423. Like, there's these teams that are massive, enormous brands, should be able to be closer to Red Bull than they are. So it's more a failure. They should be able to win
at least one damn race against them as well. Like, it's crazy that the fact that, yeah, we've gone the whole season where we've not even won a race and had a sniff of the win. It's crazy.
Certainly is. Next question comes in from CJS97531. With Red Bull really not having any reliability issues that have been seen and still being miles clear of the field in the hands of Max, can we start saying that a clean sweep of the season isn't a crazy thought? No, it's not a crazy thought at all. I still, within my own delusion, believe that that's not going to happen, and there has to be one race where something crazy happens. But we're into the summer break and nothing crazy has happened yet. Even though we've had rainy qualifyings, rainy races sometimes, it's still the same outcome. So at this point, it's looking likely, just purely down to, again, the Verstappen consistency. That is something that is probably the part of his driving ability that is scarier than anything else, is that he's able to bring that A game every single time without fail. There isn't a part of us that goes, oh, maybe he'll have a stinker this week. Perez has been on and off
tracks, or
missing
he's
Q3.
Not good at this or good at that. Yeah.
Verstappen just is like, nah, mate, I love them all. I love each and every one of those tracks the same. So yeah, it is possible, very possible, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, because like we were saying, you know, we all banter about, oh, we need some rain to spice it up. Max is even further ahead in the rain, things like that. So yeah, it's definitely not out the question. The cars are so reliable this year. There will be something surely with reliability where it does, but they are so reliable now. But you do wonder. I wouldn't put it past. I still don't think it's going to happen with Max, But I think it's looking more and more likely now that Red Bull could sweep the season, because even if Max has, a puncture or something or something that goes completely wrong for him, Perez could pick up the pieces and win. So I wouldn't put it past Red Bull. Could potentially be the first team ever to do it, and that would be.
And the only team ever to do it. I can guarantee
only
you that.
Team, and
that will never happen again.
And it's so weird because I've said this before, but Formula One, the rule book is close, like tighter than ever. These new cars, people were scared that it was going too specky with the new cars, and they're all going to look the same, and it'd be like IndyCar, and we're going to end up with the most dominant season in the history of the sport. Even when you had the 60s where it was just build a car and someone was miles clear, more dominant than that. It's crazy.
But we're loving every second. At F1 Copium comes in with, can we just ignore Red Bull? Charles's P1. I assume this was after
your burner account.
Friday, yeah. F1 Copium, and then Delusion in Stars was the message after that. Look, we joke about it. Can we ignore this? If we pretend that they're not here, but look, that happens. That happened the same with. I mean, maybe not so much with Mercedes, because then Verstappen would just probably be a 10-time world champion if we ignored Mercedes in that period of dominance. So it's exciting that the fact that we have this consistently chopping and changing fight for P2 once again. Ferrari to just turn up now, and they're like, "Hey, no, we're the second fastest car now." It's just about
on sprint weekends.
Hamilton was sprint weekends for whatever reason. It is just the fact that they are so quick to get it just right after one practice session. But anything after that, they go downhill. They start thinking too hard about things.
Checking too much.
They make the wrong... Yeah, they do love checking, but only the right amount. But I think it's not really much more to say on that, is there?
No, but I guess we could just say that, another great drive from Leclerc in a sprint weekend. And... If this was the point where we're going to tee it up and talk about Charles Leclerc, absolutely, let's talk about it. I just thought this would be a good chance to tee it up for you. A bit of Leclerc.
I thought you were,
praise.
Well, fair. Yeah, let's do it.
He did a very good job, and I just find it so weird that it is a weird coincidence, even on very different tracks. The sprint, it's not like the sprint has always been on a very similar circuit, and we've had different weather conditions and whatever, but for whatever reason, Ferrari do deliver, and Charles Leclerc in particular.
I reckon they've just got a good baseline setup in that Ferrari. We've had hardly any dry running, and they were like, hey, no, tyre wear this weekend? Absolutely not. We're all good. We're fine. But as soon as they start having 3 practice sessions, goes out the window. It's crazy.
So basically, you were very anti-sprint, but now you're every weekend
24 sprint weekends, please and thank you. And then Red Bull can only take part in 10 of them. All right, so then we get Charles Leclerc, 14 victories. That would be amazing. The final question coming in from this segment, no, actually 2. We've got at Leroelk. Would Lando have been able to get a podium if there was more rain? I mean, that's a very theoretical scenario right now, because we didn't get hardly any rain apart from a very small amount. But Lando's pace was obviously incredible. I think it was also slightly emphasised because he came in for a fresh set of softs. So, of course, he's going to be really quick with up-to-speed, fresh, soft tyres in those conditions, especially, slippery conditions. When you're on wearing medium tyres, it's a no-go. You're going to be sliding around all over the place. Grip is even more important for the dry tyre as well as the wet tyres as well in those kind of conditions. So it's difficult to say. His setup was obviously more catered around wet weather driving because he had that huge wang. He had serious downforce, but he was getting mugged in the race with DRS, especially. So I don't think he would have got a podium. I think he would have got 4th.
Yeah, it was a very weird race for Lando. They were flip-flopping all over the place. There was one point where he was 19th. And they're just thinking, wow, McLaren having an absolute stinker, and then somehow finished 7th. Spa's such a weird track like that, isn't it? Where you can set up to be, incredible on the straights. Like Williams are like the polar opposite, aren't they? Unbelievable first and third sector, but absolutely awful. And I guess we saw that in action, because Lando was being, absolutely caned by them, and Williams were flying past everyone in the straight, and then you got to the middle sector and there's Lando going round the outside of Le Guisage like he's driving an F2 car. So it shows that Spa's a very unique circuit in that way. But yeah, Lando, I will take this moment to apologise to every Lando Norris fan that, and I think you have a bit of responsibility as well, Max. We hyped McLaren up big time, and boy, did they not deliver. Bit of a shame, really.
Yeah, whoops about that. Soz. Even Lando saw what we said. So maybe we just don't speak about McLaren ever again, and then that's probably safer. Sorry, Papaya fans. Really, really quite sorry. At F1 Copium, another one. Wow, 2 questions from the same person.
I didn't actually even realise that.
VIP.
Is that right?
It's fine.
So, okay.
Well, maybe not, but who knows? We're locked in now, Tommy. What are our thoughts on Sonoda versus Ricardo now that we have a bit more data? I have no idea. It is the most polar opposite thing in the world. Ricardo has a great sprint. Sonoda has a wash sprint. In the main race, Sonoda is the next Ayrton Senna. Daniel Ricciardo is the next Nicholas Latifi. Exactly. So, hard to say. I think the car doesn't help. Ricardo had a bad race, fair, but he's not completely washed. Hungary was a very promising race for him. Give him a few races. But yeah, it's just a race to forget, but his sprint was promising. So
if there's ever like you're only as good as your last race, we had so many questions like, should Ricardo really have like replaced De Vries? And then, yesterday we're going, oh my God, he's so close to the points. And putting in an unbelievable drive and showing that he absolutely deserved it. He's just had a bit of a stinker of a race. Sonoda has had a really good race. And really pleased for Yuki, because I was very worried, particularly after the sprint yesterday, thinking Danny Rick's going to like really show up Sonoda here and going to kind of almost worrying about Sonoda's career if Ricardo wipes the floor with him. But this was a great way for Sonoda to kind of answer the critics. Of course, Ricardo had that track limits penalty, so he would have been a lot closer, I think, to Sonoda in qualifying, and that might have changed his race. But well done, Yuki, because we said that AlphaTauri is not a great car and it's very difficult to score points, and he got a point. So well done, Yuki.
Well done, Yuki. Yeah, great drive from Yuki. You cannot say anything other than that. Shame that he actually was running up in like sort of 7th or 8th, wasn't he, for a little while, or even 6th maybe. But fell away a little bit with that car being a literal tractor, but still a point is a point, and it'll help them, maybe not massively, but it'll help them a tiny bit. We now go to biggest winner, either driver or team. Well, I'm going to lock in the whole field minus Red Bull, because nobody got lapped.
Impressive.
Around a 7-kilometre track, but we're not going to talk about that. They're closing the gap, Tommy. They're closing the gap.
Wasn't it? Didn't Sky say that at the start of the last? I think it was the race. They hyped it up, and it's like, no, Verstappen won by the biggest margin. No qualifying was close, but yeah, I will go for Yuki Tsunoda, because I think he's kind of not quite saved his career with one race, but I was getting very worried, and I think he's kind of silenced some critics and shown that, I think it's a really good performance. And for someone like AlphaTauri, a point is like a victory, because it's so hard to get points and that car is awful. So yeah, well done, Yuki.
Well done, Yuki. For anyone that's actually measuring what we do for biggest winner, I'm going to go with Alonso. I think it was a very strong drive, actually. P5 finished a solid 23 seconds ahead of Stroll, and had a very lonely race and 10 points. So well done, Fernando. After his mishap as well in the sprint, he
it does feel like a fifth is
about
but really far, like the best he could have dreamed of in that Aston Martin, which is now washed. So
I mean, even beating Russell, I think he would definitely have taken. So well done, Fernando. We now go to biggest loser.
McLaren.
Haas. Haas. They had a horrendous weekend.
They did.
McLaren, obviously, they've sort of gone off the boil slightly this weekend.
What might have been for McLaren, I think, even though Piastri got that great sprint result, but I think maybe even, dare I say, Lando, just had a bit of an anonymous weekend when I think he'd have been a sure bet on getting another podium. And he
was in our predictions.
Yeah, I know. And he obviously had the problem in qualifying, didn't qualify well, beaten by Piastri on pace in the sprint as well and in qualifying. So, I'd probably say maybe even Lando.
Yeah, fair. I'm going to go biggest loser, Carlos Sainz, actually. I think that was, a silly move at the start. Didn't obviously get penalised, but it cost both him and Piastri dearly. Neither of them.
Yeah, Carlos is so frustrating because he's finally matching
on Leclerc's pace.
Pace, and then the Sainz was always that thing where everyone was like, Leclerc crashes all the time, but Sainz is consistent. And now Sainz has caught up to Leclerc and then is just throwing away points all the time, it seems, with penalties or moments or incidents. It's quite frustrating to watch. So, yeah, it's a fair point.
Okie dokie. Let's now reflect on our predictions that we made on Wednesday.
Do we have to?
And let's begin with biggest good surprise. Now, I am absolutely fuming with James Vowles and the Williams team. Alex Albon was in a fantastic spot, running, I reckon, sort of around the 8th position, I believe it was. He was looking, I was celebrating, I was getting a little bit cocky, going, biggest good surprise, come on, points secured. But then they had the most washed strategy in the world on those mediums, kind of got in between two strategies, it seemed. Then they pitted with about 9 laps to go to put on the softs, and Albon finished 14th.
Yeah, and I went for Logan Sargent, and he was just had an awful weekend as well. Thought he was going to get some points. He was running quite high up at one point. And then as soon as the pit stops came in, he just dropped like a stone and finished 1 minute and 44 seconds off Verstappen.
To be fair, I wouldn't call it awful. He was only 8 seconds off Albon, wasn't he? So
biggest good surprise. And Logan Sargent wasn't lapped by Max.
Not. Get in the bin. But to be fair, Sargent lost all of that time getting stuck behind Sainz. Because that was he was kind of in the mix, looking on the sort of outer edges of the points, and then got stuck behind Sainz for quite a bit longer than perhaps he would have hoped for. No points for us for the biggest good surprises. Biggest flop, I went for Haas, and my God, the flop is back. Is it not, Tom Bellingham?
Yeah,
wow, they had a horrendous weekend the entire time.
Well, Hülkenberg finished last in everything, did he not? He's finished last on the road. He finished last in
points. He was last in sprint quali, the actual quali,
and in the race. I don't know where he finished in the sprint.
That's 2 points.
We'll open it up to the floor.
The floor that's not here until we post section.
It. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Comment section. Let me know. Do I get double points because Haas were very floppy, like the floppiest flop you've ever seen? Let me know. We'll call it for 1 for now. What was yours,
Good
Tommy?
prediction. Mine was Lewis Hamilton, which he had the nightmare. Oh, well, not nightmare, but had the incident in the sprint. But
you thought you were onto something.
I thought I was onto something, but he's been comfortably quicker than Russell this weekend. I'd argue that if I'd gone for Russell, I might have even tried to flag a point because Russell just didn't seem anywhere near Hamilton all weekend, so I can't take the point there.
You certainly can't, so no points for you there, Tommy. We then go to pole position.
Speaking of no points.
Oh dear. Both of us went for Lando Norris, which is, good Lord, what were we doing? We did something and it wasn't good. Had it been dry? Who knows? Probably not. But yes, wow, God, we need to calm down on the McLaren hype. Sprint shootout. I went for Lando again. Did I? I thought you went for Lando, wasn't it?
No, you went for Lando in the sprint shootout for pole again, yeah.
God, I'm an idiot. I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
And you went for Max because you're a terrible human being.
Yeah.
No problem. Then we go to sprint winner. We both went for Max.
We sure did.
That's annoying. I thought you went for something different. No, it was in the main race you went for something different. Okay, top three. I went for third Piastri. No.
Third Piastri as well. No.
Second Norris. No.
Second Perez. Yes.
God, how have you... Oh, God, you're so irritating.
Blanked a point, haven't I?
And then I went for first Verstappen because I'm a scumbag and I actually got a point. Finally. I went for a safe prediction and got a point.
Yeah, you sure
and
did.
You went for?
Lando Norris. No.
No. Even though you've put 1 point next to that on the sheet.
Sorry, it's meant to be Perez. It's just, Perez won.
Right, and then finally our one crazy prediction. I went for Alex Albon points, which should have been it, but it wasn't. Terrible. And what was yours, Tommy?
Mine's not in the sheet. I was just trying to remember it. It was that Alex Albon would be top 5 in one of the quali sessions, and he wasn't anywhere near. So, we definitely made those predictions without looking at the weather, didn't we?
Did we? I don't know.
I don't know.
Like we were expecting rain, Tommy. I think we're just washed.
I just thought Williams would be good around here, but really weren't.
They were on the soft tyres in dry conditions, but then they stuck on some mediums and it was game over, wasn't it? And then finally, the 3 crazy predictions from you wonderful listeners at home. The first one comes in from Same Usual God. Charles and Carlos to both be on the podium at least once each from the sprint and race. Nope.
No,
Jeff 204-91232. Only the top 5 finish on the lead lap. No, nobody got lapped. And then Neurophil Flas Red Bull double DNF. No.
It was worth a try.
Frank sounds like he wants to get involved as well with his one final crazy prediction, but we're not going to let him because he is washed as well. So, Tommy, that is the Belgian Grand Prix done and dusted. Our final race review podcast for a month. So that's something. What's your final thoughts?
He can't win. No. My final thoughts are drop some ideas what you'd like to see during the off season. We've got some
any
ideas.
Any questions
but also
you want answering? Any topics you want covering?
So we've got a bit of time now to maybe do some different things from our normal content, and don't worry, we'll still be doing the hammering out the YouTube vids and the podcasts and things like that. So don't you worry.
Hammering's a bit extreme. I think we do need a few days off, Tommy, unless you're planning on 24/7 till now on Zandvoort. But
no. I used the wrong phrase.
We will still do content. Don't worry. It'll just be bits and bobs
stuff
here and there.
So we're not off.
We're not off. Well, you're off on holiday in a few weeks, so that's a lie.
Yeah, we'll get some bankers in.
We'll get some banker laps in. Lovely. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Just want to say thank you to everybody that is either watching or listening and has been for the last nearly 6 months of this P1 venture. It's been ridiculous. The whole thing just feels so surreal that we've been able to just slot in, do what we love, and there's enough of you that listen so that Grace can have food on her table. Thank you, everyone, for the support, whether that's on Twitch, on YouTube, as I say, on audio as well. It's been an amazing first half of the year, and we can't wait for the next half where we're going to see someone else win, and we're going to, have some silly season. There's lots of stuff to come, isn't there, Tom Bellingham?
Sure is.
Lovely. Well, that's brilliant. Have a lovely summer break, everybody. As I say, we'll still be here, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.